Hey guys, it's Scott from the Academy. Welcome to Almost March. Glad to have you. Now, the reason we are doing this webcast before the end of the month is because February, typically in Canada and in the US, is a time where you think about investing. That's where the government sort of has deadlines that actually, sort of make it and incentivize us to invest before the end of the month. And for me, I grew up with a stockbroker. My dad was a stockbroker, and I remember the first time I bought $100 worth of stock, and first time ever investing. And then, 6 months later, if you look over my left shoulder, you'll see what I bought. Saxophone for $1,000. Now, all my investments haven't been a 10 popper, that's for sure. But it really showed me that investment strategy, no matter where you're at, whether you've got $50 a month to invest or more, it's a long-term strategy that really is important to have you there. And with terms like ETFs, in the US, 401ks, Roths, TFSAs, RRSPs, there's a lot of language out there that boggles even those who are in the industry. That's why we've brought Kevin Cochran from Enriched Academy here with us today to help us weave through that. And Kevin's somewhere in the bowels of Toronto, I assume. Are you north of Toronto, Kevin?
Just a little north of Toronto in a small town called Uxbridge, Ontario. So, yeah.
Very good. And so Kevin's going to take it away. And as you have questions, feel free to type them in the box. But Kevin, thanks so much for making time for our Academy and the players.
Always happy, Scott. Love our partnership with the CFLPA and very excited about delivering this message. You take a look at financial literacy. And I don't even like using that title because it sounds boring, but really it's such a vital, skill life set that we're just never taught. And, we've worked with so many CFL players over the last little bit, and the feedback's been just nothing short of extraordinary. And we're really excited about that. But saying that is I think now if you take a look at what's going on in the world, now more than ever, there's never been more of a slap in the face, for lack of better words, of why we need to understand financial literacy. The number one thing everybody's talking about worldwide is COVID. And the second thing is money and debt. And here's what I've noticed, and Scott, I know you've been around probably as long as me as well, is that every 5 to 10 years we run into something we've never seen before, right? Yeah. 2008, we had the financial crisis. 2001, we had planes crashing into buildings. Now here we are with a pandemic. And guess what? If you're watching this right now and you're a player and you're in your mid-20s, or if you're 30s, you still got your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, 4 or 5 more of these that you're going to run into where you never saw something this coming, and you take a loss of income, lose a job, economies get rattled, and that's just the way that the world is built, right? And so I think now more than ever we need to understand this. And as Scott mentioned earlier, he's talking about 401ks and RSPs and TFSAs. We're going to be talking about a lot of more Canadian content here today, but it is a language that's confusing, and we don't sell financial product. The feedback from players has always been amazing that we work with the CFLPA. And the reason why I'll tell you is that because they're like, man, you take this complicated language and you really simplify it. And that's what we want to do.
Kevin, can I insert a disclaimer there? Because
Sure.
Kevin, whenever I listen to Kevin, I want to go out and do stuff because he knows so much. But I'm just going to say, you're not client of Kevin. So as you hear this advice, please don't go out and do things. Consult your own financial advisor because we don't know the depth of your situation. So good information. Seek a professional if you're going to act on it. Is that fair, Kevin?
Oh, Scott, you know what? This is complete entertainment purposes. There's no doubt that's the best way to put it, right? Because what we're going to do is kind of give you a 50,000 foot view of, how money works and the language of it. But at the end of the day, and we're going to refer to that as we go to the program, through this program, is that seek out professionals. But how do you find the right professionals, right? You got to realize that, a lot of professionals out there, went to a 2-month course and then they refer to themselves as a professional because they can. So I'm not saying they're bad, but we work really, 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 really hard to make an income. And we work really, 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 really hard learning how to earn that income. So let's work a little hard on learning, okay, now I've got dollar bills, and let's say every dollar bill you have as a child, where am I going to put my kids, right? And because, you want them to grow up to be adults, for lack of better words, and then be able to provide you a great lifestyle. So we're going to go through that today, and we're going to go through really ultimately 10 common questions that we get. And again, these are just questions, and there's no right or there's no, because sometimes you see people, I feel stupid asking this question. There's no stupid questions, right? People say learn from your mistakes. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Why would you learn from your mistakes when you can learn from somebody else's? right? And ultimately that's the thing, right? And that's the whole point is you're talking to a guy who's 44 years old, myself, I'm a high school dropout, didn't understand this language. I was over $20,000 in credit card debt 2 years after finishing high school. And you know what? It took me decades to build wealth. And that's what we want to do is duplicate that and learn from the mistakes that I made. I had a financial advisor that charged me too much. I, didn't understand how investments work. And now I have a much better understanding, and I'm glad I do, because once you learn it, you learn it. And the best part of it is if any player watching right now one day wants to have a family and have kids, guess what? You can pass this information off to your family and really change your family financial tree forever. The one thing I read with Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he said, poverty's passed on. And you know what? Enough's enough. Enough of the time where, this information is only kept to a certain group of people. Like, we want to make financial literacy available to everybody. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's go through some of the questions. Number one is this. And we hear this all the time. It's like, I don't have much money left over at the end of each month. And what is the best way to start investing? So again, we hear this all the time, right? People are like, I don't have a lot of money left over. What's the best way to start investing? So here's the thing is that just starting is a big accomplishment, right? Number one is this: before you start investing anything, what you want to do is you want to run a net worth tracker. You want to find out what all your assets are, what all your liabilities are. So you want to find out, and the best part of it is the CFLPA has provided all of our tools for you so that you can actually run these analysis on your own life, right? Because it's not just about, well, I just know that, I bring money in and whatever's left over, I see that's what I want to invest. No, we got to understand what's coming in, what's going out. So let's find out, first of all, our net worth, what our net worth tracker is. And here's the reality is that we know that most people in Canada, and the United States is no different either, just so you know, the saving rate for Canadians dropped substantially over the last 20 or 30 years. The average Canadian was saving 20% of every dollar they earned back in the 1980s, and now it's under 2%. But it doesn't really matter how much you have. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that even if it's a little, you can start investing. The one thing a lot of players have asked me, they're like, should I pay off debt or should I start investing? Here's what I will say. If you have credit card debt sitting at 19% interest and you're thinking about investing, you want to focus on paying off that credit card debt. There's no doubt in my mind. Like, that is you don't need to get a second opinion. There's no point making investments and getting a 5 or 6% return when you're spending 20% interest over here. Yeah. And I will say,
sorry, Kevin, I was just going to say, you mentioned going to Enriched Academy, and I think that's really important because we have some players online here. Guys, if you want to get access to the Enriched Academy material, all you have to do is email us at academy@cflpa.com. We give you a nice little login free. There's no charge to it. I've taken the course. I've been in finance for 20 years. I'm learning great stuff. So sorry to interrupt, Kevin. I just want to make sure the players could do that.
Scott, always happy to have feedback. Absolutely. Because clearly I won't go through everything, and sometimes you forget a few things. And the one other thing I will tell you, and I bring this up in every presentation because, it is important. It's something as basic as like, should I pay off debt or should I invest my money? Again, I want to show you this. This is a credit card of mine. It's a Royal Bank credit card. I'm not saying use Royal Bank. This is just mine. And it's $4,900. That's my credit card bill this month. So you're talking like a couple MacBook Pros. If you only make minimum payments on your credit card, just so you know, it would take you about 43 years and 5 months to fully repay off that credit card. 43 years. So a lot of players I meet, they're like, I thought it only take about 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. No, it would take you 43 years to fully pay off that credit card. And I want to be clear that we do these live events right across the country. We had over 3,000 Canadians show up to our live events back in 2019 when you could do live events. And we had a lot of CFL players show up. It was amazing. It's part of the package. You guys can come absolutely free. And when we run events again, we'll be promoting it. But it's interesting. We'll have doctors, some of the smartest, people, in the country. And they'll be like, Kev, I got a $10,000 credit card bill statement. I've been making minimum payments for 3 years. I can't get ahead. And I go, bud, you won't pay it off for 95 years. And these are smart people, super smart. Yep. So if you're like, man, I didn't get this, it's okay. It's not about how smart you are. It's just if you don't know what you don't know, it doesn't matter, right? And it's designed to complicate us, right? So number one is what you want to do. And again, the CFLPA has provided this for you, is you want to run a net worth tracker. You want to know, number one is this is all my assets. This is all my liabilities. You want to categorize your liabilities, which the program does. All the calculators that we have by interest rate, how much, if you're not paying it off in full, what are you paying in interest every month, every year? And then what you want to do is run a budget. And then what you can do is track and monitor what debts you should pay off first, and anything left over, then you want to start investing that. Anything you want to add on to that, Scott? Or
no, I just wish I had known that when I was 20 and not when I was 30. Would have made a huge difference.
The one thing about money, man, is which makes it amazing is that we think that age, and it does in our case, Scott, because I made the same mistakes myself. Age, if you're provided this information at 15 years old, and we have people in our program. There, one gentleman, his name is Tyson George, and he's from London, Ontario. He's 17 years old. He owns 6 investment properties. And like his parents didn't give him any money, didn't get inherited any cash. He just went out there and sold meat over the summer, made $50,000 selling meat, and bought a property and did it. So you just realize you don't have to wait forever to do this. But the one thing I will tell you is that if you want to start investing, people say, what's the best way? It's interesting. There's a great quote. They say the difference between rich and poor, what rich people do, what rich people, and I don't like to use the word rich, let's use the word wealthy. What's the difference between wealthy and poor? What wealthy paid people do, as soon as they get a paycheck, they pay themselves first. They set aside 10, 15, 20%, and they spend the rest. What poor people do is they get a paycheck, they spend everything, and they say, whatever I have left over by the next paycheck, that's what I'll save. And ultimately, we know that most people don't have any money saved by, if you don't save it right off the top, you're going to spend all of it. That's just the way that it works. Yeah. And it's really... Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, just because we do have some players on Kevin. Guys, if you are listening and you have a question for Kevin around, we're going to have some places for questions, but type it in the chat box and I will take a look at them and make sure that Kevin gets a chance to do that. So do that whenever the question hits you. Sorry to interrupt there again, Kevin.
Oh, no, Scott, anytime, feel free. This system I'm going to show you right here is right out of the book called The Automatic Millionaire. And I love that book. Like, the reality is I struggled to start saving money when I was younger because I'd get a paycheck, I spend it all, and then I say, by the next paycheck, if I have anything left over, that's what I've set aside. And there was a book called The Automatic Millionaire, and it was a really, really great system. And this is right out of that book, right? David Bach is the author of the book. And really what the goal is that you want to have really 3 separate accounts set up. Number 1, you want to have a checking account, you want a savings account, and third, you want an investment account. But the way that the system works is that most people, not everybody, have a predictable income. And even if you don't, you kind of have an idea of what your income might be month to month, right? You have an idea, or what you can do to go over the last 2 years and average out what your income is. And you want all your income going into one particular account. That's your checking. And your checking account is where all the action is. That's where your mortgage, rent payments, car payments, insurance, that's where everything gets pulled out, right? What you want to do, and you can set this up with any bank or credit union, whatever you use, you want to set this up is that based on what you predict you're going to make on a month-to-month basis, transfer a certain percentage of that to your savings account, but you can make it automatic. It just automatically transfers it to a savings account. I've been doing this for 20 years now, 22. It's what got me out of debt, because here's what I realized. I can't rely on me to do it. It's the most painful thing in the world. If I went online every month and said, okay, I'm transferring from checking to savings, I get like guilty. I'm like, I'm paying myself. And it's still in the savings account, like it's still accessible, but I'm not reliable enough to do it myself. And I know that most people aren't. So if you make it automatic, that's the beauty of this system. So you put the money automatically gets deposited into your checking account. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's just one thing less off your plate going, hey, you know what? I know it's about $1,000 a month. That's 10% of what I'm going to earn. That's going to go directly to my savings account. And the last thing is that you want to have an automatic withdrawal from your savings account and start putting that into your investment account. And I'm telling you right now, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and we are operating this system to a T, and she has a part-time job.
Yeah, fair enough. I think this connection to the investment account, you're not too young to do that. I was telling Kevin before the broadcast, my son, he's just turned 22, and he's been doing this for 4 years, and he's buying his first condo. Now, he's not as good as Tyson is, but at 22, to be doing that in Vancouver marketplace, and he's not making 6 digits by any stretch of the imagination. It's just pay yourself first. The best thing I've ever heard anybody at Enriched Academy say, and there's been a lot of great things, is pay yourself first.
Well, and then just to speak to your son who's 22, again, it's nothing to do with age, right? Like people think, the one thing when it comes to money and income and stuff coming in, it's amazing. I'll tell you, do you know how many events that we hold where you'll see a plumber making $70,000 a year, and in the same room we have a lawyer making $300,000 a year, but the plumber worth $70,000, that has a income of $70,000 a year has a higher net worth than the lawyer all the time. The lawyer looks richer. Yep. They have a car that's leased, a bigger home. The plumber's probably got an old beat up pickup truck, and he has a smaller house, but he got 5 of them. right? And what we have to do is reset what wealth is. And the reality is that it's not that complicated. It's not that many moving parts. But as you spoke to earlier, Scott, this is what we're talking about, this complex language. How do you know what accounts to set up? And that's the cool thing about Enriched. We're not here to sell you financial products. We're giving you an unbiased system that we believe that works. And then you search out the professional that will finish it off for you, that'll tell you where and what you should invest in. Question two that we get a lot of is, a lot of people say, I keep hearing about TFSAs and RSPs. What are these things? If I had to choose one, what should it be? Now, again, this is entertainment purpose only. Like, ultimately, you've got to do a deeper dive on what your financial situation is, but I can give you a generic answer to this question. TFSA is a tax-free savings account. RSP is a registered savings plan. They're two great options. And ultimately, for some, both options make sense. For some, one does, and for some others do. Another one does. So here's the reality. If you don't have a large or a high income, a TFSA actually makes probably more sense. The goal of an RSP, people go, what is that number? And again, this is entertainment purpose, like 50 to 55,000 or less in income a year. Probably just investing your money in TFSAs makes sense because you don't really have any income to write down. The reason why you invest into an RSP is that you're trying to, because the more money you earn, the higher of a tax bracket that you're in. So the reality is that by investing in RSPs, it actually sets you to a lower tax bracket based on how much that you invest. So that's the goal of it. But if you're in a lower tax bracket because you don't earn a large income, investing in an RSP or putting money into an RSP doesn't make sense. Right. But for those of you that earn a large income, maybe some of the players making 150 or 200 or whatever it is a year, putting money into an RSP and topping off your TFSA, that would make sense. Right. For some of you, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. You're so good at reading body language. I appreciate that, Kevin.
Yeah.
TFSA, guys, a tax-free savings account. And in Canada, I think so this year, it's about $6,000 a year that you can put into that. And the beauty of that, as I understand it, Kevin, is that you can put investments in there and you can grow your investments and they come out tax free. And I think as of your 19 or 20, you get 6,000 a year. So you can check with the CRA, or you would probably know better as to what your limit is for your TFSA. My brother, who's 55, through his financial advisors, and this speaks to Kevin's place, get a great financial advisor. He never had a TFSA. He had 75,000 in unused capacity for the last decade or more. What a waste of chance to grow money.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute no-brainer. And here's the reality: is that there's no, if you can take advantage of all, that's the best thing that you want to do. There's a TFSA, which is a tax-free savings account, RSP, registered savings plan, RESP, which is an education plan, savings plan, and then there's RDSP, which, my dad's visually impaired. I wish I would have known about this a little earlier on. This is registered disability savings plan, and this is unfortunately a very unknown, but the contribution limits are great, but what the government actually matches is quite amazing. So if you have somebody with a disability, which again, if I wish I would have known this, I would have put more money into it. And because there's a lot of caveats, but understanding that better is it makes a lot of sense if you can. But you have registered versus non-registered accounts. So here's the deal: is that what a registered account is something that's registered with the CRA, Canadian Revenue Agency. Offers tax incentives, savings grow tax-free, which is great. You do have contribution limits, and there's different accounts for different stages in life, which is we're going to talk about. And then non-registered with the CRA, so no tax incentives. The gains that you earn are taxed at 50% of marginal tax rate, and there's flexible contribution limits. And you're more liquid. That's the difference between the two. If you really want to know the difference between a TFSA RSP versus a non-TFSA RSP. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to ask, Kevin, if I wanted to find out what my RSP contribution limit is. I mean, it's due actually February 28th. So that's this Sunday. So if somebody's watching this now and going, I'd like to make a contribution, how do they know how much they can contribute? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you know what? Number one, I would just say talk to your accountant, whoever did your account, your taxes last year. They'll know what your contribution limit is. It would be on your NOA, your notice of assessments. Last year, it'll tell you what your contribution limit and anything that's carried over from past years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And the interesting thing with the TFSA and an RSP, believe it or not, they're like mirror images of one of another. If you actually run the numbers, which is quite interesting. An RSP is a registered savings plan. So again, it's structured as and I get sometimes this is the part that can get a little dry because it's so technical, but it is important to talk about it, is that it's structured as a self-funded pension for retirement. And you get an immediate tax deduction. That's the reason why you are going to eventually pay tax on this money. And when you put money into an RSP, again, you're not paying tax on the money that you put into an RSP, putting into a lower tax bracket, which is great. The contribution room is carried over for a maximum of tax savings. So if you didn't put any money in your RSPs last year, you can it'll carry over to this year. So you don't miss a year. The cons is that you do pay tax when you start to withdraw, and you must start withdrawing this money at age 71. And when you turn 71, automatically an RSP turns into something called a RIF, an RIFF. And the RSP and the RIF are the exact same, except you can't put more money into a RIF. Yeah. And there are contribution limits.
So can I just say that for guys who are in their 20s, you're going 71, man, like that's half a decade, century away. Why am I even thinking about this? First of all, compounding of interest, but at 71, the idea, I guess, Kevin, is that you're not working full time, that your income is a lower level. So you probably pay tax at a lower bracket than you would if based on, peak income earning years. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. And again, this is something that it carries over. If you're in a lower income, if you're making like 55, 50 a year, this probably isn't, and again, entertainment purpose only until you dig deeper. But this probably wouldn't make a lot of sense for a lot of people, right? So TFSA would make more sense, right? Because as I said, there's no point writing your income down if you're not going to. And I'm going to show you what I mean by writing your income down. Let's say you made $100,000 and you have $20,000 to contribute. Right. Let's say you made $100,000 in your 2020. You're going to pay roughly $27,560 in interest. That's what you're in taxes. Right. That's your tax bracket. But if you invest that $20,000, believe it or not, because we have a graduated tax system. So what it is that progressive tax system, excuse me, is that as you earn more money, if you put $20,000 into RSPs, you're going to go to a lower tax bracket. So believe it or not, you're going to get about a $7,500 refund on the tax that you paid, which is great. So that's the goal of it, is that you're going to a lower tax bracket. Now, I've actually worked with a few players, and again, entertainment purpose only, where they're like, we budgeted them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I realized I have about $500 extra a month. I wish I could start saving into an RSP right now, but I missed my window. There's only, another month before I can contribute. Well, one thing that you could take a look at is that RSP loans. And again, I'm not saying this is for everybody. RSP loans are provided by most banks and credit unions. The interest rates are very, very low, and it's a very easy loan to get, believe it or not. And one player that I worked with, he said, you know what, I've missed the window, and he had like $45,000 worth of contribution limit. I said, talk to your accountant, let's run a budget, let's find out. And the accountant said, you know what, if you put $30,000 in, you're going to get a tax refund of roughly 14 or 15,000. I can't remember what the number was. He had a couple of write-offs. And I said, dude, take that 15,000 that you got back. And then if you want, pay off that loan. Now you're going to drop your loan from 30,000 down to 15. The loan interest rates are very low on that. And they said that $500 a month, start paying off that off. And then all of a sudden now you're not waiting a year to get all this money. And think about what the stock market's done over the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you don't want to miss these opportunities. So the thing is that a lot of people think that the only way they grow income is by just them going to work and bringing in a paycheck. You got to figure out how to get money to work for you a little bit too. Right. And an RSP loan is a definite. I work with a lot of police officers. It's the same thing, right? You know what? They have a salary, they bring it in, and they're like, oh, I missed my window to put money into an RSP. I'm not going to have that much to put in. I go, look at an RSP loan. Right. And that's a great thing. And I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it is a great option, right? Because low interest rate loan, I think you can amortize them up to 4 years. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember. It's been a while. But yeah, a great option. I don't know if you want to add anything onto that, Scott. No.
And then, as you said, interest rates right now, 2-3%, on 10,000 over a year is $200 or $300. And look, if you're getting $7,500 in an immediate refund, to pay back that loan. So smart move. And again, consult a professional before you go and do that.
Yeah, 100%. What you want to do is you want to run a budget, see how much disposable income you have every month. You want to talk to your accountant, find out what kind of refund you're going to get if you do it, right? Because you can get the answers before. Say, hey, listen, before you submit my taxes, can you tell me if I contribute this much to my RSP, what kind of return am I going to get? And you can balance it out and find out what's right for you, and then make the decision, right? That's what I would.
So just if the guys haven't done a TFSA before, Kevin, or an RSP, can I just go to my bank? I think you mentioned this already, but just to be clear, can I go to my bank and set those up? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can go to a bank or a credit union, whatever you want, and you can open up a TFSA or RSP. There's two types. You can open up a self-directed TFSA or RSP, or you can get the bank to do that. Now, again, to each their own. You got to decide what's right for you. But with a tax-free savings account, it's self-directed. The only difference is that you decide what you're going to buy or purchase. You purchase it all on your own, right? If the bank opens one up for you, they'll manage it, but they'll also put mutual funds and so forth in it.
So put a pause on this question if you want to answer it later. But a lot of people say, I don't want to pay fees, so I'm going to do self-directed. And then they don't know what self-directed means. They get excited about it when they open and they forget about it. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, what self-directed means, Scott, is that, hey, listen, I'm going to open up an account under my name, and I'm the one that's going to, I have self-directed, but that's right for me. Again, it may not be right for you. I manage a lot of my own money, so I decide what I'm going to buy. I do all my banking through TD Canada Trust and Royal Bank and Scotia. I'm pretty much an old man. I'm not saying that you should. I'm just being clear. I'm just giving you my system. And I think it's called Web Broker. And so I go through Web Broker and I purchase all the stocks I want on my own. I'm not a day trader. I buy and hold a lot of stuff, right? But I can make the decision myself with a $10 commission every time I do it. That's a great option for me because I kind of understand what's right for me. I've run my asset allocation, so I feel comfortable with the way I'm doing it. But for many others, you may want to open up TFSA, RSP through a bank, but they manage it for you and they purchase everything on your behalf.
Yeah. My thought would be too, and again, for entertainment purposes only, that if you haven't invested before, it takes some research, it takes some dedication and faithfulness to watching that. And if you put it in and forget about it, as Kevin's been saying, the markets do all kinds of crazy things. So it can grow and it can disappear. So it's good to have someone with eyes on it for whether that's you or somebody professional.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you just got to find what's right for you and which is, again, to each their own. But before you do anything, watch the Enriched Academy program that the CFLPA has provided for you. It's an absolute game changer. What I find crazy about the CFLPA by offering this is that it's so many answers to the test, which is amazing, right? So a TFSA, again, is a phenomenal tax tool, a phenomenal investment vehicle, so the interesting thing with an RSP is that you put money into the RSP, but eventually when you pull the money out, you're going to pay tax on that. So it's pre-tax. TFSA is different. You pay tax on the income and then you put it into a TFSA. And then any growth in it, so if that's $70,000 that you've already paid tax on that you put into the TFSA, that's $70,000 growth by $70,000. That $70,000 that's grown is tax-free. It's really amazing. Right now, the limit that you can have in a tax-free savings account, I just double-checked to make sure, is $75,500. And there's a low one of the cons of a TFSA, the contribution limits are much lower. They're about $6,000 a year. Now, if you're 19 years old watching this, your contribution limit is not $75,000. I want to be clear about that. It's 6,000 times however old you are over 18. So 6,000 at 18, 6,000 at 19, 6,000 at 20. If you're in your 40s like me, my limit's 75,000, right? So the older you get, the more limit that you have, right? So it's very, very important. So it's kind of cool. You make investments, you grow, you pull that out, you're not paying tax on it. You can use it for a variety of short-term and long-term goals. It's a great tool for investments, and there's huge upside. The cons, there is no tax deduction before you put the money in. You cannot do it through a business. People have asked me that all the time. It has to be personal. You have to be 18, and again, the low contribution limit. That's one of the challenges with it. Question number 3 that we get a lot is, how much can I invest each year in a TFSA or RSP? So I guess I kind of just answered that question. TFSA is $6,000 a year that it grows. An RSP is 18% of your income up to a maximum of $27,000, plus any previous unused RSP room as well. So if you had a $25,000 contribution limit last year, but you didn't use it, and then you had $25,000 this year, your new limit this year is $50,000. That makes sense?
It does. By the way, if you put in more than that, I can speak from personal experience. They penalize you big time if you over contribute. So make sure you know your number with your accountant.
Right. And the whole goal of an RSP is that one day you're planning maybe not to work. right? That's the goal. Like that's what it is. And so at 65 years old, what you're going to do is when you pull that money out, because you don't want to be earning an income, okay? Let's say if you're 65, you're like, I'm going to work till 70, I'm going to start pulling money out. I'm still going to make 200 a year. Well, the 200 you pull a year plus whatever you pull out of your RRSP, that's going to be taxed at the highest tax bracket, right? So there's really no benefit. So the goal is that at one point you're going to maybe not earn an income anymore. You're going to retire. It's going to be enough. And then what happens is that you just start relying on that one income source because you don't have as much income coming in, right? So that's the goal. The next question is what is the difference between stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds? Great question. And you know what? Crazy we don't know this because I didn't know this until we wrote the program. I didn't know a lot of it. This is over a decade ago. But stocks are like individual stocks you can buy. You can buy Royal Bank stock. You can buy Disney stock. You can buy Microsoft stock. You can buy Tesla stock. There's all these different types of stocks that you can have. So you can buy that's what a stock is, buying individual shares of a company. What a mutual fund is, I'll go to that next. What a mutual fund is where, the best analogy I can give is imagine all the players in the CFL, you all pool your money together and you give it to me. And my job as I'm a mutual fund manager. You're going to give me all your money and I'm going to place it into the market. And so really I'm managing that money, right? That's really what it is. And I'm purchasing, mutual funds on your behalf. I'm a mutual fund manager. What an ETF is very different, actually, believe it or not. An ETF is something where all the CFL players pool the money together, but I'm eliminated from the equation. And what you're doing is you're actually investing in a specific market, as an example. So, and I'm going to kind of dig into a little bit deeper so people can understand what this is. An ETF, it stands for an exchange traded fund. Now, I love exchange traded funds, stocks, and mutual funds. Exchange traded funds are great. Again, they're good for me. They may not be right for you. You got to do what's right for you. But here's the thing is that the one and only job of an ETF is to mirror a market. It's not supposed to beat the market. What a lot of mutual fund managers do is they say they're going to beat the market. That's their goal. Like, hey, you know what? Give your money to me on the mutual fund. A mutual fund is trying to beat the market. An ETF is just trying to mirror the market. That's really what it's trying to do. And the problem with a lot of mutual funds, again, this is statistics, is that 92% don't outperform the market over a long period of time. Only 8% actually do. And the problem is most people aren't investing. A lot of times when we're sold mutual funds, I'm not anti-mutual funds. A lot of them are great. You got to find what's right for you. The challenge with a lot of mutual funds, the fees tend to be high because I'm a mutual fund manager. I want to get paid. And here's the thing: is that with a mutual fund, it's just we get sold that last year we outperformed the market by 3 or 4%. But the reality is that a mutual fund might outperform a specific ETF for 1 or 2 years, but over a long period of time, statistics tell us it's different, and that ETFs and markets outperform any mutual fund. If you take a look at, or the majority do, if you take a look at some of the markets, different ETFs, this is right from Money Sense. We're not telling you should buy them. Okay, I'm just giving you an idea what an ETF might be. So you've got Canadian equities. This right here, the fees are extremely low, 0.06. What Canadian equity is actually, so imagine you buy this one stock, and at the time, this was $26 a share, could be up or down. I don't know what it is right now. Mm-hmm. This ETF it holds 250 of the largest Canadian companies in the country. So it's kind of cool because it's a revolving list, right? It would have Bell, Rogers, TELUS, just to give you name a few. And the cool thing is if a company's not doing well, it gets kicked off the list and a new company comes in. And so really what you're doing is you're betting on capitalism with a stock like that. And you can do the exact same thing with, if anybody's ever watched the news and you see the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is up, it's down. What the 500 represents is the top 500 companies in the United States, right? So that, again, Google, Disney, Tesla, Tesla just got there, actually, believe it or not. So Tesla just got there and then booted out another company, right? So you're always betting on the top 500 companies. And the cool thing is like one of those shares is like $55. And the one thing that I've always said is this: the job of these companies, the 250 in Canada, the 500 in the United States, well, there it is, Vanguard, the second one right there, VFE. And their job is to make money. So they hire the smartest CEOs, CFOs, CEOs in the world. and I'm a mutual fund manager. It's very rare. Like, how am I going to outsmart the top 500 companies in the country? Like, very, very difficult. Not that it's impossible. It's very, very difficult to do. Scott, anything you want to add to that? Or
that's a great slide. You know, if someone was looking to invest for the first time, what would be a reasonable rate of return that they should expect? Because we've had some silly things with GameStop and silver over the last little while that just have given people a lot of, very delusional numbers, in my opinion. Again, this is entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, Scott, you know what? Here's the one thing I can tell you. I don't get this market. I don't get it. I can't explain it. Clearly, everybody's just printing cash. And the one thing that I feel okay about the fact there is that everybody's doing it at the same time. But like, if you asked me a year ago, what I thought the markets were going to do. And again, this just shows, that's why before I say, I'm like, ultimately, I don't know, but I thought the markets were going to be a disaster. I thought the dust was settled by now. I thought we'd have a really good idea that, what's going on. And I still can't understand it. Like, can you tell me why I get why real estate prices go up. I can understand some of it because you have high immigration in Canada and low interest rates. I can see some of that. But how stock markets are high, and when you have like 20, 30% of people unemployed and you keep writing checks, at some point you got to pay the piper here. I don't really get it. But with stocks, again, if you buy blue chip stocks and that, things like, I buy stocks for my son. He's 10 years old because we have something called a custodial account. So I find things that are interesting to him. He loves Iron Man and Thor and Hulk. So I buy Disney stock because they can have a bit of a dialogue, right? My daughter, who's 15, is all about iPhones and Apples, and buy her Apple stock, right? But again, it's just tough to tell what people can expect for any returns, because I can't understand. And you ask most people, they can't really explain why the stock market's at an all-time high.
I remember attending Phil Town's workshop. It was 3 years ago at that time. So we're 2018. And he said, the market's going to crash. Get a big wheelbarrow full of money, get ready for bargains. And he's still saying the same thing. So you're right. This is uncharted territory. It's like the rover landing on Mars. We don't know what to expect, but, talk to your advisor. Make sure you get more than one opinion if you're going to invest a large chunk of money, because it's probably fair to say these are dynamic times. I don't know if it's going to go up big or down big. I just don't think its stability is something that we're going to see for a while, whatever direction it goes.
No, and again, you just keep writing checks, and then you have Bitcoin coming in, and Bitcoin seems like it's here to stay, right? And there's another one that just could be a monster sitting there, and I don't know. Ultimately, here's what I will tell any player watching right now: if anybody says they know, be absolutely cautious, because they have no idea. Absolutely none. If anybody goes, no, trust me, I know. And Phil Town's going to be right one day. He's like, and then they'll write a book, and then they'll have on the news saying, he predicted it, right? And I'm telling you right now, I don't know. I could keep saying, this will be the year. I told people, this is what I said at the beginning of when this happened. I said, listen, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if I'm the guess. I think the market's going to crash.
I heard a really good analogy that, back in the 14 or 1500s, the world was flat until it wasn't, and the laws changed. And some people think that's what's happening in the stock market now, but nobody seems to know for sure. We haven't been here before.
No, and then ultimately nobody knows when a crash is going to happen, and when it happens, or very few select people would know. So again, I don't know. I look at I'm big on stocks, but I like real estate. I have we're going to talk about asset allocation later on here, but again, if you're looking at buying stocks, and this is what I do believe, is that if you have under $500,000, I think finding a financial advisor may, and again, this is entertainment purpose only, there's options other than going to a financial advisor. And we're going to talk about that, because financial advisor fees are really, really high. And what you got to realize is that for a lot of financial institutions, you have the biggest wealth transfer ever in the history about to happen in the next 10 to 20 years, where you have the baby boomers dying off, passing that money off. They're really after those millions upon millions of dollars. If you're sitting with $200,000, $300,000 to invest, $100,000, as great as that is, there's nothing wrong with that. I commend anybody that's got any savings. It's hard. I get it. But that's not a big carrot to a bank, right? So they're going to charge, or a financial institution, right? So it's important to know that. The next question is this, I think it leads into it, is that, should I manage my own money? Should I have someone professional manage it? What should I look for in a professional manager? That's a great question, right? Is that some people are capable of managing their own money. Again, I'm not here to make that decision for you, entertainment purpose only. But right here it says, do I need to find a financial advisor? I guess these are the three questions you got to ask yourself. Number one, do I feel confident when it comes to investing? If you don't, absolutely, you need an advisor. Can you dedicate at least 30 minutes a month to understanding what your stocks are doing and taking a look at it? If you can't, then absolutely you need an advisor. And if you can't use a computer, if you're not comfortable buying and selling stocks or investments, then you absolutely need a financial advisor. To be honest, the majority of people that I meet need guidance. I would say 10 to 15% don't. And that's just my experience. And it's not like you're a failure if you don't. Just some people I don't have the headspace to wrap my head around this right now. And that's totally fine. But what you want to do is you want to make sure you find the right advisor. What a good advisor is going to do, the challenge with a lot of them is that they're just there to sell you product. Remember, financial advisors don't get paid to get you out of debt. They get paid to sell you financial products. Like, hey, buy this mutual fund, buy this product. And again, that's why I think people like the Enriched Academy program and the partnership with the CFLPA. I'm not here to tell you what to buy. We actually our reward is by helping you get out of debt if you're in debt. Not everybody watching this is in debt. We get it. There's 3 buckets. Some are in debt, some are paycheck to paycheck. And here's the honest thing. Some people are saving money and they have no idea what their money's doing. None. And that's okay too. Even people with money have no idea what their money is doing. But you want to make sure they provide a personalized financial plan. They give you unbiased advice. They're very transparent on their fees. Provide tax planning, will and estate planning. Will and estate planning is huge. The amount of people that don't have a will, and if you're younger and 20 with no kids, I get maybe you don't have one. But the reality, the older you get, you need a will. It's just and proper estate planning, private real estate investing, private business investing, creative insurance planning, like all this stuff matters. And constant education, not just telling you stuff saying, don't worry. Worst thing you'd ever do is sit down with somebody saying, I don't get this stuff. I'll just give you the money. That's what you got paid to do. Don't go in saying that. That's the most insane thing in the world. This is your money. You worked really hard. Think about all the things you sacrificed to earn this income, all the birthday parties of your friends you missed because you were out practicing, all the tackles, all the injuries, all the things that you did to earn this income. Have respect for that dollar coming in because you worked really hard to get it, right? Really, really important. Another question people ask is life insurance a good investment? Now, here's the thing is that this is one of the saddest things I see when we look at stuff is that, again, we analyze statements and we don't give advice, but we analyze what fees are. And there's so many people that I meet that are over life insured and or some have none. It's very extreme. I very rarely see somebody that has enough. And the problem is a lot of people, and this happened to me too, when I was younger, you get sold whole life insurance and they're universal. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really targeted at a much different audience. Like it's kind of it's a tax plan, a shelter for a lot of people that are wealthy, like super wealthy, like millions and millions of dollars. And honestly, the people that are going to really benefit from it is that when you pass away, you're not paying huge taxes on when you pass away, and the estate doesn't pay huge taxes. That's really who's going to benefit. Really, not even you. But I've met so many people that, number one, they have no life insurance. And I really believe people do need life and disability insurance. I really do. I don't sell it. But the amount of people I meet that are primary breadwinners in their family, they have no life insurance and no disability. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The majority of people honestly don't need more. Again, I'm not saying this is you. Got to search out a financial advisor and a good insurance broker. And what you need to do is find out. But honestly, the majority of people just need term life insurance. It's cheaper. It's substantially, it's like horrendously cheaper. You're talking like something would cost you in universal or whole life $300 to $500 a month. Term's going to cost you like $110 a month. Yeah. It's that much difference. But for some people, that whole life or universal might make sense, right? There is a market. There is a place for it. There really is. But unfortunately, too many people like me at one point in my life, I got sold it. I was like, okay, I'm in, because I didn't understand. The guy seems smart. He's wealthy. I want to be wealthy like him. So I just did it. But it was absolutely made no sense whatsoever because the fees charged on it are insane. And it's just not the right investment vehicle. So anything you want to add on that, Scott? Or?
You did a beautiful job, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no. And disability insurance, just again, I really believe you need that too. Now, the problem why nobody wants to pay disability insurance, it's expensive. It's expensive. Like something like $5,000 a month to cover your overhead is going to cost you a couple $100 a month. That's probably what you're going to look at, right? But the reality is, again, I don't like to pay it, but I do. And the reality I do because, again, I'm the primary breadwinner in my family. And if something happens to my income, I want to make sure there's some type of coverage, right? And so I don't add added pressure to my whole family, including my parents or whoever it may be, right? So again, it's something you need. I do believe that you should get your life insurance as early in life as you can. If you're thinking about, if you're 24 saying, I'm going to get married, I'm with somebody that I really like, well, then get it now. And you may not understand why you need it, but the older you get, stuff starts breaking. And you know what I mean? And then your insurance gets way higher. And so get it. I got mine at my 25 or 26. Glad I did. right? And yeah, I don't know.
And football players too, just because the body takes more wear and tear on things. There's all kinds of reasons. So again, we're not advocating a specific venue, but you really should check into that based on your own circumstances to make sure that if you can't earn the money, how's it coming in to pay for your family and your life?
Well, the amount of people that I meet that live with that every day, and you can tell, like, it wears on you. You know, when you're in your 20s, no, you got the piss and vinegar in you. But when you're 35, 40, you have kids and you realize, holy cow, if I don't go to work, there's no food on the table, something happens to me, my family's in trouble. Yeah. And, you know, they're already going to go through so much if something happens to you. Don't add more pressure to them by, you know, not having some type of life insurance plan.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Next question is question 7. Yet we're running tight on time, so I'm going to get through this with 3 questions left, 3 or 4. What should I expect as a normal rate of return on my investments? Again, there's no predictable answer to that, right? If anybody says I guarantee you, the biggest words in guarantee in investments, right? Just please be careful.
I think the market, if you go back, you're probably just going to do that right now. So I'm going to be quiet. You are so good.
No, it's okay, man. Oh, it's okay. Listen, if you want to take a look at what the average return in the stock market's been ever since 1871, we go through this in the program. You have full unfeathered access to it. If you highlight the good versus the bad, just so you know, 29% of the years are bad since 1871, 71% of the years are good. You know, if I would have listened to my advice a year ago, people did, I didn't give advice, my opinion. And again, I was very clear right off the bat. I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody does. Even this year, no idea. I eventually think something's going to happen where the market's going to retract a little bit, but it hasn't happened yet. It just statistically has to anyways. But this is what it's done. And just so you know, there's way more good than bad. And the key is learning how to invest properly in intervals. And we actually talked about that in the program called dollar cost averaging, is how do you sit there and constantly invest, even when the market's going down. Think about it. When the markets are decreasing, you're buying stocks on sale. Yeah. It's a great thing, right? And people think, oh my gosh, I'm losing money. I'm going to sell. That's when you should be buying. Stocks are the only thing that should go on sale that everybody sells. As toilet paper went on sale, half price, you know, back in March, everybody would have doubled down on it, right? But, you know, and Warren Buffett said it best, and I'm sure, Scott, you've heard this before. In times of fear, be greedy. In times of greed, be fearful. When people are greedy, like buy, that's when you should be afraid. And when people are fearful, that's when you should be looking at buying.
Yep, exactly.
If you average the average stock return market since the 1900s, just so you know, if you average out every decade, it's been 8%. It's been 8%. So it's actually pretty amazing. So that's a really good return, right? It's funny. If you take a look at, Scott, I don't know if you know this, we just added this to the program. If you take a look at the average return in the stock market of every bank, Canadian bank, so if you put 100, it's like average 15%. So if you put $100,000 into Royal Bank stock back 20 years ago, today it'd be worth $1.9 million. It's insane.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? So, you know, you got 5 banks, they have a monopoly, but
yeah. Maybe just as a side juncture, when you do have bank stocks, because you mentioned it too, there's some stocks that when the stock price goes up, that's your only gain. But others pay dividends, and bank stocks are those where they pay a set amount of money. So regardless of the share price, there's often a dividend attached to that, which is often a quarterly or annual kind of dividend.
It all depends if it could be monthly, quarterly, or yearly. You want to make sure you put that dividend on something called a DRIP, where that investment gets reinvested again.
Yeah.
So the dividend you do get paid. I saw Kevin O'Leary speak. So this is where I'm quoting it from. I've never read it, but I saw him in the back. He said, I think 75% of all returns in the stock market have always been through dividends. So I like dividend paying stocks. And again, you know, you have a bit of fun with other stuff. And again, if you have kids, I get there's a lot of young players, but if you have kids, you can open up custodial accounts through a bank and start trading through them. My daughter, who's 15, she has a trading account. And you know what? She bought it. And again, this is her because she's 15. If she loses all the money, it doesn't matter. We bought a whack load of cruise stock, right? Because they're 80% off since their peak, right? Right? We bought a ton of Bitcoin. If she makes she works at a senior residence delivering food, and so she makes $10,000 a year. And so she put 5 G's and I put 3,000 in a Bitcoin. I said to my daughter, Maya, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, who cares? Yeah. I said, you're still spending $5,000 a year on whatever you want on you, clothes and whatever. I said, this is just a great way to keep going. So anyway,
congratulations, Kevin, to you and your daughter. That's a great story.
Well, here's the thing is that the amount of parents that get back to me and I just want to share it is because these aren't my ideas. These are ideas that I stole from other people. Again, like success leaves clues. And the one thing what I see players do sometimes, like I don't trust the stock market. I just rather save it and I can put it into a checking account. But you got to realize your money is not doing anything in a checking or savings account. That's why I don't want you to keep it there, right? If you had $100 100 years ago and you kept it in a checking account, your $100 today would be worth $100. If you had $100 100 years ago and kept it in a savings account at a 1.5% return, which is usually what the return you get at a bank, it's funny. Banks and credit unions, they're like, oh, trust me, keep it in a savings account, it's safe. They'll lend it to you. We'll give you 1.5% return, but then they lend you your money back at you on your credit card at 20%, right? So, anyways,
nice spread.
Right, and that $100 today would be worth $443. Here's the problem: is that inflation. What inflation is that if you wanted to buy something for $100 100 years ago, that exact same product it would be $1,900. So, believe it or not, the price of goods goes up faster than the return you're getting in your checking or savings account. So, having your money in a checking and savings account is actually costing you money. Right? Bonds at a 5% return over the last 100 years, $100 would be worth $13,000. Real estate at a 6% return, that $100 would be worth $33,000. In the stock market, if you had $100 invested over 8% at an 8% return, it'd be $219,000. Now we're not talking about 100 days, 100 minutes, 100 weeks. This is 100 years. There's no get rich quick. And the problem, and I see this with a lot of players, you see it, and I love this saying. They say, if you don't believe in anything, you fall for everything. And I see people falling for marijuana stocks. They fall for Bitcoin. They fall for that. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't buy any of that stuff. That's up to you to decide. But you got to find a plan, stick to it. And the Rich Academy is going to walk you through it from front to back. The plan that you should take a look at, and then how to find the right professionals that will help you get there. Here's the next question: is this how should I choose which stocks ETFs to invest in? Right. You know what? This is the question. Oh, wait, sorry about that. I think I went too far. How should I invest in what stocks to invest in? One thing that I would recommend a lot of people to take a look at, I mentioned this earlier, if you're not sure, find a professional. And in our program, again, that is available to you through the CFLPA, we have our financial advisor interrogation kit. So it'll help you find the right advisor. Now, some of you actually, as I said, if you're under $500,000, something you may want to take a look at, which I know I'm actually a really big believer in, is going to a robo-advisor. A robo-advisor is going to help you determine what your risk level is, what your goals are financially, and then they're actually going to purchase on behalf of you low cost. So like a perfect example would be a Quest Trade or a Wealth Simple. Those are robo-advisors. Now, banks are starting to have their own robo-advisors because they realize they're missing out on a lot of business. And so take a look at, again, we're not going to tell you what to buy or not to buy. Obviously, the younger you are, you probably can take some more risks because you have more earning power, more runway for earnings. The older you are, you're going to be a little more reserved. Can you replace your income after a player, or how much are you going to earn? So there's so many variables there. But take a look at if you're under $500,000 in assets to invest. Take a look as an option. I'm not saying you should, but a robo-advisor. And just Google robo-advisors Canada, and you'll find a bunch. And like Wealth Simple, which I'm sure a lot of you heard of, we have no affiliation with them. They just tend to be usually the biggest in Canada. But their fees are extremely low. Like, where a bank might charge 2%, people with 2% is not that bad. If you compound 2% over your lifetime, it's half your money, right? So you got to realize that. So it's really, really important. But a robo-advisor will do all the choosing for you. It's liquid cash. You can sell out anytime you want. So take a look at that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that's a safe beginning on that question.
Great. Where are the signs of a good real estate investment? You know what? A friend of mine told me this. I want everybody to listen to this because I know a lot of real estate. And the one thing my friend told me, you make your money on the buy. You make your money on the buy. That is when you make money in real estate. Okay. That is the goal, is making it on the purchase. And again, it's funny. You talk about times of fear, times of greed. I remember when in 2015, everybody's like, people are overbuilding in Toronto. There's too many condos. There's way too many. So everybody started getting fearful. I remember I had been to New York just prior to that. And I was looking around New York and I was looking around Toronto. I was like, there's no way we're building too many condos right now. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I bought condos at $500,000 at Yonge and Eglinton, like one of the busiest intersections and now they're worth over $1 million each, right? And so that's the fear and greedy. So when you're watching the news and get all this input, like reality is that, that's the junk that you kind of have to numb out and make decisions. Anyways, we can go down that path another time. But here's the deal. In our program, again, we have this calculator available to you. I'm telling you right now, we've had people that own 100 investment properties look at us and say, man, these tools are unbelievable. And this is all free to you. It's already available. CFLPA has made this available to you. This is a calculator where you can type in the purchase price of the value of the home. Oh, sorry about that. On the top right corner, so value, what province are you in, what city, what kind of down payments you're going to make, all the costs, the initial investments like land transfer tax, title insurance, appraisal, all that stuff, operating expenses on this property. Are you going to have a first and second mortgage? If this is an investment property, what your gross rents are. And what it's going to do, it's going to actually break down, believe it or not, what your cash return based on the investment is, what your mortgage pay down every year is, and then also because values of homes go up, right? So that's the cool thing about real estate. You get paid 3 times, right? You get paid based on cash flow, you get paid on the mortgage getting paid down, and the value of the home goes up. So it's kind of triple dipping on a property. So the way my asset allocation is, I'm 70-30 real estate and 30% stock. That's for me. I'm not saying that's for you, but that's what I mean. This is the planning. And people go, I don't know if I want to put that headspace into it. Man, how many thousands of hours did you practice, throwing a ball, tackling, doing whatever you do, kicking a ball, right? A football, right? Thousands and thousands. Like, it's disrespectful to what you did, those thousands of hours to earn an income. It's disrespectful to that money not to give it some appreciation and just sitting down a little bit, because you don't have to invest lifetime of hours forever. You put a couple hours in right off the bat and you'll start figuring out having a much clearer picture. But that's a cool picture. So before we purchase any property, this takes all the emotion out of it. Not like, oh, I love this house, look how beautiful it is. Who cares? It comes down to the numbers, right? And if the house is structurally sound, which should be done through an inspection. But this calculator takes out all the clutter, and bottom line, it's going to tell you. And we have a full section on how to buy real estate in the program. It's a video-based program. It's all there for you.
It's great stuff.
Last thing here, and this is the last question is, and we've got 1 minute left. Okay. Last question is, what factors should I consider if I choose between real estate or equity investing? At the end of the day, you know what? As I said, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's just my thought. That's my advice. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. Just my opinion. Some people are all in on stock. Some people are all in on real estate. I get it. Some people are like, I don't like investment properties, too many headaches. Well, you know what? That's fine. But you know what else is a headache? Because some people get freaked out. They're like, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm freaked out. I go, well, you know what? Don't do it then. You're right. Take away that pressure. Like, oh, thank you. I go, but don't forget, when you're 65 and you need to, still earn an income, you have nothing. Think about that panic. That panic's going to last forever. Yeah. This buying property would be temporary. But, if you take a look at stocks, investment, real estate obviously has always done really, really well. If you look at stocks that have a 7 or 8% return, you take a look at that, you go, okay, that $100,000 over a 20-year period, we were $386,000. Real estate, where you're getting paid the mortgage pay down, the cash flow, and the appreciation of the property, you're looking at a lot more than $100,000. You're looking at $1.6 million over 20 years. So again, I'm not saying you'll have all your eggs in one basket or another. What you just want to do is analyze and do what's right for you. Again, just remember, all these tools are available to the CFLPA, through the CFLPA. And our program's all video-based. We do live events. We filmed it. All the tools we showed you, everything is in here. This is the deluxe version, fully unlocked for every CFL player through the CFLPA. How to eliminate debt, manage credit, invest in stocks, real estate, how to create a financial freedom map, all the tools, everything you want, everything's in it, and it's fully available to you. So back to you, Scott. There's the show.
Take a well-deserved glass of water there, Kevin. That's awesome. So again, guys, there's nothing being sold here. This is just because of the relationship the Enriched Academy and the CFLPA Academy have. And it's been a long enduring relationship. So any of these questions begin to answer, or even have other questions, the first step is to contact Jason or myself at the Academy at academy@cflpa.com and check in. We're happy to hook you up with this. Kevin, that was amazing. I wish I could keep you on for another hour. I have a feeling we're just getting warmed up in some of those areas, but very much appreciate that.
Scott, appreciate all the energy you put into setting these up. You do a great job, so thank you.
Okay, fair enough. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Kevin, thanks again so much.
Thanks, everyone.